Chapter 13. Selene. 2 days until the wedding. Selene paces her room like a caged animal, restless energy coursing through her veins. Rain lashes the window, the wind howling in time with the storm inside her. Her bed is a mess, sheets tangled and damp from another night of dreams. Alaric. Always Alaric. She hasn't seen him since their strange encounter in his study. Yet he consumes her thoughts, his impossible blue eyes, the way his fingers brushed her ankle, the way his voice settles in her bones. This is insane, she whispers to her reflection. Dark circles ring her eyes, her skin flushed with an unnatural heat. She barely recognizes herself. Wedding preparations blur around her. Serafina snaps at everyone, saving her sharpest words for Selene. Dorian lingers near, seeking refuge from Serafina's stress, his touch lingering in a way that once would have thrilled her. Now, it leaves her cold. Because her heart, her mind, her soul belong to someone else. Alaric. The name pulses through her like a second heartbeat. She replays their encounters obsessively, searching for something she can't name. The only distraction is the flicker of white between the trees, the wolf watching from the forest's edge. She's tried following it, but it always vanishes. A part of her wants to go into the woods at night to find it. The memory of Selene Virel's fate stops her. Or does it? Is it fear that holds her back? Or something else? A knock makes her jump. Selene. Serafina calls. The florist needs to speak with you about the bouquets. Coming, she replies automatically, though every part of her resists the triviality of it all. The next hours pass in a haze, approving centerpieces, confirming table settings, enduring Serafina's storm of anxiety. The rain pounds harder, trapping them inside with mounting tension. Serafina paces, checking her phone. They have to be wrong. It can't possibly rain on my wedding day. Dorian tries to reassure her, but it only fuels her agitation. What do they know? Did you see what happened to the Petersons' tent last spring? Collapsed right on top of the cake. Selene feels the walls closing in, air too thick to breathe. Alaric flashes in her mind not as she last saw him, but as he appeared in her dreams, looking at her with recognition, with love. I need some air, she blurts, cutting off Serafina mid-rant. In this weather? Her mother scoffs. She doesn't answer. She's already heading for the door, grabbing her car keys. Selene. Dorian calls. You can't drive in this. She doesn't stop. Rain soaks her instantly as she yanks open the car door and slides inside, gripping the wheel like a lifeline. She doesn't have to think, her body knows the way. Greyston Estate. Alaric. Lightning splits the sky as she pulls up, illuminating the looming stone facade like something out of a Gothic nightmare. The vision vanishes as darkness swallows the house again, broken only by the warm glow of the windows. She stumbles from the car, barely registering the rain plastering her clothes to her skin. The front door opens before she reaches it. A butler stands in the warm light. Is Mr. Ashbourne home? She asks, voice foreign to her own ears. He takes in her appearance, wild eyes, soaked clothes, with only a faint lift of his brow. Miss, I'm afraid, Selene. Lyra steps into view, surprise flickering across her face. Has Serafina lost it? I promise you, the weather will improve. One bad day, then perfection. Selene barely hears her, scanning the space behind her for someone who isn't there. Lyra's expression shifts to concern. Are you okay? Come inside. Hoping for a glimpse of Alaric, Selene allows herself to be led inside. Lyra settles her in a warm living room, pressing a cup of tea into her hands. She barely registers the butler murmuring "my lady" before leaving. Lyra shrugs. British. Very formal, those folks, aren't they? Selene nods distractedly. The wind howls outside, rattling the windows. Is your brother home? The question escapes before she can stop it. Lyra hesitates. No. He's out. She studies Selene. What's going on? You look like you've seen a ghost. Reality slams into her. What is she doing here? What would she even say if Alaric were here? Hello, have you been leaving dead animals for me? Are you a giant white wolf? Do we know each other from another life? Lyra squeezes her hand. Plenty of other fish in the sea. What? Selene blinks. Your sister's fiancé. Lyra gives her a knowing look. I know it feels impossible now, but you'll get over him. Selene stares at her. Dorian. She hasn't thought of Dorian in days. The absurdity of it hits all at once, and suddenly she's laughing, wild, hysterical. Lyra watches her, eyes wide. I must look insane, Selene gasps. A little, Lyra admits. Selene sobers, inhaling deeply. I haven't been myself lately. She hesitates, then confesses. Your brother told me about the beach. About what happened. Lyra stills, expression sharpening. He told you? She studies Selene. What did he tell you exactly? A weariness creeps into her tone, making Selene instantly regret mentioning it. Not much, she hurries to explain. Just that someone died. I got curious. Looked it up. Lyra relaxes slightly, but the openness in her eyes is gone. I read it was an animal attack, Selene says carefully. Apparently so, Lyra replies, neutral but watching her closely. The attention in her stance reminds Selene of something, a predator assessing a threat. She can't stop herself. I know this sounds crazy, but ever since I got here, I've been seeing a. She hesitates, afraid to say it aloud. A what? Lyra presses. A wolf. The confession lands between them like a dropped stone. I see it everywhere. The first time, it guided me out of the woods. And since then, it's always there. Even when I can't see it, I know it's there. And I keep finding these dead animals. What does it look like? Lyra interrupts, voice deadly calm. Selene falters at the sudden intensity. It's big. White. And its eyes blue like ice. Lyra bolts to her feet, head snapping toward the storm-lashed windows. She mutters. Lyra? Selene asks, alarm spiking. Lyra turns, eyes dark with fear. You need to go. Now. Before Selene can react, the lights flicker, then die. It's too late. Lyra grabs her arm, yanking her toward the front door. Outside, the storm rages. The roads might already be flooded. Headlights cut through the rain, twin beams piercing the darkness. Lyra slams the door. He's here. Who? Selene's pulse races. Lyra clenches her jaw. My brother. She disappears into another room, returning with a small bottle. Quick, rub this on you. What? Selene stares at her, certain they've both lost their minds. Just do it. Selene obeys. The sharp herbal scent fills her lungs. Lyra drags her up the stairs. Whatever happens, do not leave this room. Lyra, what's going on? Lyra grips her shoulders, her fingers bruising. Lock the door. Do not open it, no matter what you hear. A deep voice rumbles downstairs. Alaric. Selene's heart betrays her. It's going to be okay, Lyra says, but her face tells a different story. Then she's gone. Chapter 14. Selene. Hours pass, darkness settling over the house like a shroud. The storm has quieted, thunder now a distant rumble. Rain still drums steadily against the window of the unfamiliar bedroom where Selene sits perched on the edge of a four-poster bed. Her fear has faded into numb confusion. What had sent Lyra into such a panic? Why had she been hidden like a secret? The whole thing feels surreal, like stepping into someone else's nightmare. She rubs her arms, the sharp herbal scent of the oil Lyra made her apply still clinging to her skin. Sage, lavender, something bitter she can't place. She knows about the wolf, Selene whispers. It's the only explanation. Lyra recognized her description instantly. But if she knows about the wolf and fears her brother finding Selene, the realization crashes into her. Is Alaric the wolf? If he is, does that mean he killed Selene Virel 10 years ago? Is that why Lyra is desperate to keep her hidden? A floorboard creaks beyond the door, snapping her back to the present. She's alone in a strange house with a potential killer, and the only person who might protect her is his sister. She can't stay. The rain has eased, the roads might be flooded, but she could make it on foot. Better than waiting here like prey. What if Lyra is in on it? What if this is all a setup? Decision made, Selene slides off the bed, removes her shoes, and carefully unlocks the door. The hallway is dark, but a faint glow spills from downstairs. She moves silently toward the staircase. Voices drift up, Lyra's light tone, a deeper, rougher rumble that makes her breath catch. Alaric. From the landing, she can see into the dining room. Alaric sits at the head of a long table, Lyra at his side. He looks wrong. His skin is pale, and he slouches, head resting heavily on his knuckles as if barely holding himself up. Something tightens in Selene's chest. Maybe you should have more, Lyra urges, pushing a glass toward him. You should be asleep already. Alaric nods slowly. Fine. His voice is thick, drowsy, nothing like the commanding tone Selene remembers. Lyra pours a dark liquid into his glass. He lifts it with a trembling hand, drains it in one go. Selene leans forward, straining to see. The stair beneath her foot betrays her, the sound splitting the quiet like a gunshot. Lyra's head snaps up. Their eyes lock. Is someone here? Alaric asks, but he doesn't look up. His voice is distant, detached. Just Selene Blackwood, Lyra says, gaze still fixed on Selene, silently commanding her to leave. Who? Alaric asks, confusion genuine. Lyra's face darkens with anguish. Exactly, she murmurs, patting his arm before leveling Selene with another pointed look. Selene stumbles back, retreating to the bedroom, heart hammering. Why would he pretend not to know her? Again. She paces. Something is wrong, Alaric's sickly appearance, his amnesia, Lyra's urgency. None of it makes sense. Voices and footsteps in the hallway draw her to the door. Peering through the keyhole, she watches as Lyra and the butler half-carry Alaric toward another room. His head lolls forward, his movements sluggish. He looks seconds from collapse. Panic grips her. What has Lyra done to him? The drink, was it drugged? Poisoned? Why would she do that to her own brother? Selene's fingers tighten on the doorknob, ready to burst out and demand answers. Just as she's about to, soft footsteps approach. It's Lyra, comes a quiet voice. Selene hesitates, then unlocks the door. Lyra slips inside, carrying a tray of food. I told you not to go outside, she hisses. That was suspicious as hell. Selene fires back. What's wrong with Alaric? What did you do? He'll be fine, Lyra says, avoiding her eyes. He has to be. Something in her tone sends a chill down Selene's spine. What does that mean? It means, Lyra interrupts, voice dropping lower, that as soon as you can, you need to leave. Not just this house, Selene, this place. As far as you can, and never come back. Do you understand? No, Selene admits. I don't. Lyra exhales heavily, glancing at the rearview mirror as if checking they aren't followed. I swear to God, Lyra, if you don't tell me right now, my brother can turn into a wolf, Lyra interrupts, giving Selene a quick silencing glance in case that wasn't obvious. Selene snaps her mouth shut, waiting for more. Our whole family can, Lyra continues after a moment. We're all shifters. Shifters. Selene repeats. Wait, so you can also, yes, Lyra confirms simply. The information is too much, too fast. Selene feels lightheaded. But the white wolf, the one following me around, she begins. Yes, that was Alaric, Lyra says grimly. Why does he keep doing that? Selene asks. He's always acting like he doesn't know me. He doesn't, Lyra says, taking a sharp turn. At least not when he's human. Selene falls silent, stunned. So it hadn't been an act. His human side cannot remember you, Lyra confirms, seeming to read her thoughts. But his wolf side does. It knows you and craves you. Why? Selene asks, a strange warmth blossoming through her chest at the confirmation. Because you're his mate, Lyra tells her matter-of-factly. His destined mate, in fact. What does that mean? It means you're destined to be his fated. Lyra's hands tighten on the wheel. Wolves all have a fated mate, that one person supposed to make them whole. Once they meet them, they usually instantly recognize their true mate, and a bond begins to form. A bond? Selene echoes, thinking of the inexplicable pull she's felt toward Alaric since that first encounter in the woods. A mating bond, yes. It's a magical bond of the souls. Lyra's voice takes on a lecturing tone, as if reciting something learned long ago. Alaric's wolf knows you're meant to be his, and it desires to claim you, settle the bond. Oh, Selene says quietly, uncertain what that means but feeling a strange thrill at the words. Yeah, Lyra grimaces. Which is why, if you don't want to end up like Selene Virel, you'll do good to get your ass as far away from here as you can. The name sends ice through Selene's veins. Claiming means killing? She whispers, her dreams of the dead woman on the beach flashing vividly through her mind. Usually it doesn't, Lyra replies carefully. To claim means to bite. The bite settles the bond. But you're human. Selene. Alaric's claim would kill you. Which is why you need to go. Because soon, his wolf won't be able to help itself. It will claim you, no matter what it takes. And it will kill you. Selene sits in stunned silence, horrified yet simultaneously feeling a strange, traitorous desire for the wolf. The contradiction makes her dizzy. Luckily, Lyra continues, pulling into the long drive that leads to the wedding estate. You're human, which means you probably won't feel much of the bond. Not like we wolves do. Would claiming me kill Alaric also? Selene asks, the only question that matters to her suddenly clear. Lyra shakes her head. No. Claiming would save him from going feral. However, she sighs heavily. However what? Killing humans is forbidden against our laws. If Alaric were to go feral and claim you, killing you in the process, then what? Selene presses, heart pounding. Then pack law would dictate that we'd have to kill him, Lyra says, meeting her eyes. Tears glisten in Lyra's gaze. I will have to kill him for going feral. Even if he doesn't kill you, he'll be too dangerous. Then what is feral? Selene asks, though she's not sure she wants to know. Feral wolves don't remember their human sides, Lyra explains, her voice hollow. They're driven by instinct, driven by blood. They seek nothing but carnage and destruction. She grips Selene's forearm. Go. Get out of this town and never come back. I beg you. Selene watches Lyra's car disappear around the bend, taking with it any hope of the bright future she'd envisioned just that morning. Her love for Alaric, it seems, is not just forbidden. It's impossible. Deadly. Chapter 15. Selene. When Selene stirs, awareness returns slowly, and the first thing she notices is warmth. Strong arms encircle her waist, a solid chest rising and falling against her back. She doesn't need to look to know who it is. Her body recognizes him instinctively, as if they've spent 1,000 mornings just like this. Selene turns, heart swelling with certainty and rightness. Alaric sleeps deeply beside her, more peaceful than she's ever seen him. Her fingers hover just above his face, wanting to touch. Alaric, she whispers. He doesn't stir, his breathing deep and even. She tries again, a little louder. Still nothing. Selene settles back, content to simply watch him sleep. Dark circles ring his eyes, but the lines of tension that usually mar his features are smoothed away in repose. The questions that should be pressing seem distant and unimportant in the tranquility of this moment. She knows she loves him. The realization doesn't shock her. It feels like acknowledging something that has always been true. She loves both the man and the wolf, for they are two halves of a whole. When he wakes, she'll tell him. She'll assure him that his dual nature doesn't frighten her, and that he can't stop pretending. A shaft of sunlight breaks through the gap in the curtains, falling directly across Alaric's face. A soft groan escapes his lips as his eyes flutter open, unfocused at first, then sharpening as they fall on Selene. Hi, she says, smiling, happiness bubbling through her veins. Alaric recoils with a sharp intake of breath. Who are you? He demands, his body tensing as if ready for attack. The smile slides from Selene's face. Selene, she replies, confusion washing over her. Alaric looks genuinely troubled, glancing around the room. Why are you in my house? Your sister told me to stay here, Selene explains, struggling to keep her voice steady. My sister. He repeats. Alaric shakes his head, pushing himself up to sit against the headboard. How did I get here? He asks, running a hand through his hair. You came to find me here, Selene says, struggling to remain calm despite the growing hollow in her chest. You were in your wolf form. His eyes snap back to her, his entire body going rigid. It's okay that you're a wolf, she hurries to assure him. I don't mind. Alaric stares at her with such an utter lack of recognition that she almost doubts her own memories. But there's no other explanation for how he appeared in her room, how she fell asleep with the wolf only to wake in his arms. You keep following me around, she tells him, her voice taking on a defensive edge. I see you everywhere. No flicker of understanding. He's looking at her as if she's a complete stranger. Don't you remember? Selene asks, her voice small now. He clearly doesn't. His blank expression confirms it. The connection she felt, the bond she was so certain they shared, suddenly seems like a cruel illusion. I follow you around? Alaric repeats slowly, as if testing each word. Yes, Selene says. Since that first day you found me in the woods. Did you not want me to know it was you? Is that why you keep pretending not to know me every time we meet? We've met before, he asks, and the fear in his voice has deepened to something like dread. We have, Selene whispers, searching his gaze. He looks utterly lost, as if the ground beneath him has disappeared. But he begins, then stops, his expression crumpling. But you're a human, he says finally, voice breaking. Selene startles at that. Of course she's human. What else would she be? The question forms on her lips, but before she can voice it, the door bursts open. Lyra stands in the doorway, frozen at the sight before her. Her gaze darts between them, assessing, calculating. It's okay, Alaric says carefully. It's not, Lyra replies, her mouth a grim line. You know it. I know it. Alaric says nothing to that, his silence heavy with resignation. Lyra turns her attention to Selene. Selene, she says, voice carefully controlled. Come here. Slowly. Selene looks between them, torn and heartbroken. She doesn't want to go. She wants her wolf back. She wants the peaceful certainty she felt just minutes ago, before it all began to unravel. Do as she says, Alaric tells her, his voice calm but commanding now. But he closes his eyes, as if the sight of her is physically painful. Please, he says, the word strained. Selene obeys, though she can't tear her gaze from him as she moves. She notices his jaw clenching, his expression contorting with effort. Slowly, Lyra warns. Don't rush it. You'll trigger him. Selene wants to argue that this sounds insane, but something in Lyra's urgency makes her comply. Alaric, she begins, unable to leave without trying to reach him again. His eyes snap open, and Selene gasps. They're no longer the impossible blue she knows. They've changed to a molten gold that seems to glow with inner light. I'm sorry, he says. Lyra's hand closes around Selene's arm, pulling her from the room with surprising strength. They move quickly through the house, Lyra half dragging her toward the front door, out into the morning light, and to a waiting car. Get in, Lyra orders, already sliding behind the wheel. Seat belt. Selene obeys mechanically, her mind still struggling to process what just happened. As they speed away from the estate, she watches the grand house recede in the side mirror, feeling as if she's leaving a piece of herself behind. I'm getting you back to your family, and then you all need to leave, Lyra says, her knuckles white on the steering wheel. I need you all gone within the hour. Not before you tell me what's going on, Selene demands, finding her voice at last. Chapter 16. Alaric. Alaric Ashbourne has known he was cursed practically since he could talk. His first memory is of his grandfather being dragged from the house, a snarling thing more beast than man. He remembers his mother's tears, his father's rigid spine as he followed the procession into the woods. He remembers the howl that cut through the night, not of rage or pain, but despair. Finality. He was 4 years old, too young to understand but old enough to fear. By 6, his father had explained it all in that solemn, unyielding way of his. The Ashbourne family curse, a punishment from generations past. They say when the first Alaric Ashbourne, his namesake, betrayed a witch who loved him for a human woman who feared him, all male heirs are born with it, his father had told him, eyes already carrying the shadows of his fate. Our wolves cannot recognize our mates in human form, cannot remember them, cannot even perceive them properly. But the wolf knows. It recognizes. It craves. Young Alaric had nodded, not fully comprehending. The horror of the dichotomy drives the mind mad, his father continued. Our wolf desperate to claim what the human forgets. The human forever walking past his destiny without recognition. The warning was clear: never leave Cedar Ridge. Stay where the risk of encountering his mate would be minimal. Most shifters went their entire lives without finding their fated ones. Alaric could do the same, could live a life of careful isolation, could die an old man with his sanity intact. It hadn't worried him much as a youth. He'd felt untouchable, immortal in the way all young people do. His control over his wolf was perfect. How could he possibly lose that iron grip on his other half? But then he was the one who'd found her on the beach. Selene Blackwood. She'd been human, and the bite had kick-started a transformation that had deformed her body so completely it had killed, though not before she'd experienced excruciating pain. Even in death, her face had still been contorted in pain. The image has been stuck in his mind ever since. He sees it every time his eyes close. The sound of Lyra's car interrupts his thoughts. She's back from where? He can't remember if she told him where she was going. The days bleed together lately. Time keeps slipping away from him. He transforms and loses hours, sometimes whole nights. His limbs are heavy from the sedatives. He's been taking them for weeks now to subdue the wolf's urges. They leave him foggy and disconnected, but it's better than the alternative. He'd feared, but he'd hoped. But there was no hope now. It was clear what was happening. The girl he'd woken up to, the memories are almost gone now. Dark curls, warm brown eyes, a name he can't recall. Her scent already a distant echo. The warmth of her body against his like a dream half remembered upon waking. Soon, he won't remember her at all. She told him her name, and pain had filled her eyes when he'd made it obvious he had no idea who she was. The contours of her face are blurry, but not that pain in her eyes. God, to think it is she, his mate, and he couldn't even remember her name. Alaric. Lyra stands in the doorway, her expression crumbling at the sight of him. Pity. Concern. Fear. It makes something in him want to bare his teeth, to snarl that he doesn't need her sympathy. Don't look at me like that, he says instead, voice rough from sleep. You've been going to her, Lyra says softly. Despite the drugs. Alaric tenses, a chill racing down his spine. Going to her? His wolf has been seeking her out, visiting her. His mate. The wolf gets to see her, smell her, touch her perhaps, while he, the human, gets nothing but oblivion. Though perhaps oblivion is kinder. Perhaps the wolf suffers more. What's her name? He asks, avoiding Lyra's gaze. He needs to know even if he'll forget again in minutes. Lyra shifts her weight, her scent betraying her discomfort. The less you know, the better, she says. You know that. Alaric nods, though it doesn't feel right. Nothing feels right anymore. His skin is too tight. She was human, he manages. Like her. Like Selene Blackwood. I don't want to talk about Selene Blackwood, Lyra says, tears welling in her eyes. But Lyra wasn't there. She doesn't remember what he does. The scene is seared into his memory, a wound that never heals. Selene Blackwood's body twisted and distorted, the shift gone horribly wrong. Bones partially transformed. The putrid scent of death and fear and pain so thick he could taste it. His father had been beside her, holding her, cradling what remained of the woman he'd claimed. He'd regained his senses in the end, just enough to hold the mate he'd condemned to the most painful death imaginable. Alaric will never forget the sheer desperation in his father's eyes as he begged for death. That's how Alaric had become alpha, by killing his heartbroken, murderous father. By enforcing the very pack law that might someday be used against him. The wolf inside him stirs at the memory, agitated and restless. It wants out. It wants her. Has she gone? Alaric asks. No, knowing exactly who he's asking after. Yes, Lyra confirms. I told her to leave. Her family too. Alaric nods, pressing his palms against his temples. A headache builds behind his eyes, pressure increasing with each heartbeat. Lyra is looking at him with tears in her eyes. He doesn't understand why. Are you okay? He asks. What's wrong? Did something happen? Lyra shakes her head, but he can smell the lie on her. Something did happen. What did I do? Alaric murmurs, heart racing. What did the wolf do? What if he's already gone too far? What if history is repeating itself? You need to sleep through the day, Lyra says instead of answering. I'm going to get you more of that potion, okay? Just trust me on this. Alaric nods distantly, unable to focus on her words. Against his will, the wolf howls and claws at his consciousness, desperate to break free. Chapter 17. The wedding estate is buzzing with activity when Selene returns. Florists arrange centerpieces, caterers wheeling trays through the kitchen. Selene's barely crossed the foyer when her mother's voice cuts through the chaos. There you are. Lyra exclaims. Where on earth have you been? We've been worried sick. Behind her, Serafina emerges from the sitting room, her face pinched with irritation, Dorian on her heels. Selene begins, but her mother cuts her off. Not a call, not a note. Your sister's wedding is tomorrow. What were you thinking? Selene sighs. They don't have time for this. We need to leave, she says. All of us. Now. Her mother's expression shifts from anger to confusion. What are you talking about? It's not safe here. Selene hesitates, knowing how it will sound. There's a dangerous wolf in the area. It's going to come back, and we need to be gone before it does. The silence that follows her pronouncement is broken by Serafina's incredulous laugh. A wolf? She repeats. Are you serious? Dead serious, Selene says, meeting her sister's gaze. I've seen it. It's been following me since we got here. Following you? Serafina's voice rises an octave. Because everything has to be about Selene, doesn't it? Even my wedding? This isn't about the wedding, Serafina, Selene snaps, frustration bubbling over. This is about keeping everyone safe. Safe from an imaginary wolf. Serafina steps closer, her face flushed with anger. Just admit it, you can't stand that Dorian chose me, that I'm finally getting something you wanted. The accusation stings. This has nothing to do with Dorian, Selene says quietly. Then what is it about? Her mother interjects. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're trying to ruin the biggest day of your sister's life with some ridiculous story about wolves. It's not a story. Selene's voice rises. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true. There's a white wolf. Oh, a white wolf, Serafina interrupts mockingly. How dramatic. What's next? Does it talk? That's enough, Serafina. Their father says, his voice unusually firm as he enters from his study. Thaddeus Blackwood is typically the family peacekeeper, content to let his wife handle confrontations. His intervention now silences the room. Dad. Selene appeals to him, hoping for an ally. Please believe me. We're not safe here. We're perfectly safe, her mother dismisses. The groundskeeper checked the property after those unpleasant incidents with the animals. He found no signs of any wolf. That's because the wolf is his boss, Selene mutters. Serafina throws her hands up in exasperation. She's not making any sense. She just wants attention. That's not fair, Selene protests, hurt blooming in her chest. Fair? Serafina's laugh is bitter. You want to talk about fair? Do you know what's not fair? Having to tiptoe around my entire life, making sure not to offend the adopted child. The room seems to tilt around Selene. What did you just say? She asks, her voice barely audible. Serafina. Their father snaps, his voice sharper than Selene has heard in years. That's enough. What? It's true. Serafina looks between them, incredulous. Nobody cares that Selene's adopted, but you're always telling me to be careful, to make sure she doesn't feel unwanted. The words pierce Selene's armor, confirming something she's always felt but never acknowledged, the sense of otherness that's followed her throughout her life. I'm adopted. She asks Serafina, struggling to keep her voice steady. The latter looks startled. She looks between her parents, then back to Selene, confusion evident. Everyone knows that, she says, a trace of genuine surprise in her tone. I thought, didn't you know? Selene turns to her parents, searching their faces for confirmation or denial. Her mother avoids her gaze, suddenly fascinated by the floral arrangements. "I'm sorry, Selene," her father says quietly. "We were going to tell you when you were older, but then the right moment never seemed to come." Serafina backs away, the reality of what she's done finally sinking in. I thought you knew," she says again, her voice smaller now. "Well, I didn't." Selene's eyes burn with unshed tears. Serafina's face crumples, and she turns to flee up the stairs. "This is a disaster," she cries. "First the dead animals, then the weather, then Dorian being weird, and now this. My wedding is ruined." "Serafina, wait." Their mother calls, hurrying after her. Dorian, who has been standing frozen in the background, hesitates before following both women upstairs, leaving Selene alone with her father. The silence between them stretches, heavy with decades of unspoken truths. "Is it true?" Selene asks finally. "Am I adopted?" Her father sighs deeply. "Yes," he admits. "We found you in the woods while camping near. You were just a baby, maybe 6 months old. There was no one around, no sign of where you'd come from." Selene struggles to process this. "You found me in the woods? Just abandoned?" He nods. "We called the rangers, the police. They searched for days, but no one ever reported a missing baby. We'd been trying for a child for years with no success. It seemed like fate. So you just kept me?" Selene asks. "Not just," her father corrects gently. "We fought for you. There were hearings, home visits, a formal adoption process. But yes, we kept you. And then, not 3 months after we brought you home, your mother discovered she was pregnant with Serafina. The miracle baby," Selene murmurs. "We should have told you," her father acknowledges. "But your mother, she worried it would hurt you, make you feel unwanted." Selene laughs, the sound hollow. "I need to be alone," she says. "I can't, I need time to think." She turns toward the stairs, desperate to escape to the sanctuary of her room. Behind her, her father calls her name, but she doesn't look back. In her room, Selene sinks onto the edge of the bed, mind reeling. Adopted. Found in the woods as a baby. No wonder she's always felt like an outsider. She literally is one. And now, learning this truth when everything else in her world is already collapsing. "I'll process later," she thinks. "Right now, I need to go." Even if her family insists on staying, she needs to go for Alaric's sake as much as her own. If he comes for her, if he tries to claim her and she dies, Lyra will have to kill him. Selene can't bear the thought. She works quickly, grabbing essentials. A quick shower washes away the lingering scent of Alaric's arms around her, though nothing can cleanse the memory of his eyes. The house seems quieter as she descends the stairs, the wedding preparations paused in the wake of the family drama. Selene makes it to the front door unchallenged, relief flooding her system as she steps outside into the afternoon air. "Going somewhere?" The voice startles her. Dorian sits on the porch steps, a tumbler of amber liquid dangling from his fingers. "I need to get away for a bit," Selene replies, trying to edge past him. Dorian rises unsteadily, blocking her path. "Away from Serafina's meltdown?" He laughs. "Can't say I blame you." "Dorian, are you drunk?" Selene asks, noting his glassy eyes and unsteady stance. "It's barely afternoon." "Little bit," he admits with a loose shrug. Seemed appropriate given the circumstances. He steps closer, and Selene resists the urge to back away. "I'm sorry about Serafina earlier," he says, his words slightly slurred. So embarrassed by how she acted. "You'd never behave that way. It's just a wedding, right? What does it matter in the end?" "It matters to her," Selene says, shifting her weight. "Look, we can talk later. I really need to go." "Go where?" Dorian's hand catches her arm. "Just away," Selene says, unwilling to explain further. She offers a quick hug instead, hoping to end this conversation. "I'm happy for you both. Congratulations. I'll see you." Dorian's face presses against her hair, inhaling deeply. "You smell different," he murmurs. "Dorian," Selene says firmly, trying to step back. "You're drunker than I thought. Let me get you inside." "I've made a mistake," he says, not releasing her. What do you mean? His arms tighten. It's always been you. I was just too blind to see it. Selene wrenches free. What are you talking about? She exclaims. You're marrying my sister tomorrow. We can fix that, Dorian insists, reaching for her again. I love you, Selene. I think I always have. I was just, I don't know, scared, maybe, of how much you mean to me. Selene shakes her head in disbelief. You're just nervous, she says, backing toward her car. You always get like this when you're stressed, indecisive, second-guessing everything. This isn't second-guessing, Dorian argues, following her. It's clarity. For the first time, I'm seeing what's been in front of me all along. We could be happy, Selene. There is no we, Dorian. Selene's voice sharpens. You're marrying Seraphina. But you love me, he insists, grabbing for her arm again. I know you do. I can't lose that. Before Selene can respond, Dorian lunges forward, his mouth seeking hers with drunken determination. She turns her head, pushes against his chest. A low, menacing growl freezes them both in place. The white wolf stands at the edge of the driveway, massive and terrible in the afternoon light, a rumble building in its broad chest. What the, Dorian whispers. There actually is a wolf. Don't move, Selene hisses. The wolf stalks forward, each step deliberate, muscles coiled beneath its white fur. Its focus remains locked on Dorian, as if Selene doesn't exist. Selene, Dorian whispers, terror evident in his voice. What do we do? Alaric, she calls softly, desperately trying to reach whatever part of him might recognize her voice, might listen. Alaric, please. The wolf's ears twitch at the sound of his name, but its advance doesn't slow. If anything, the golden eyes grow brighter, more feral. And then it lunges forward in a blur of white, fangs bared for Dorian's throat. Chapter 18. Selene throws herself between Dorian and the wolf, arms outstretched, her body a human shield. The impact of Alaric's massive form sends her staggering backward, her spine hitting Dorian's chest. The wolf's momentum carries them all to the ground in a tangle of limbs. Don't hurt him, she cries, uncertain whether she's pleading for Dorian's life or trying to save Alaric from the consequences of such an act. The wolf looms over them both, fangs bared in a snarl that vibrates through Selene's bones. His golden eyes remain fixed on Dorian, murderous intent radiating from every tensed muscle. Dorian's panicked breathing rasps in Selene's ear as he scrambles backward, kicking up gravel. Selene reaches up, wrapping her arms around the wolf's neck, pulling herself closer rather than pushing away. The fur beneath her fingers is hot, alive with the thunder of his pulse. He means nothing, she whispers fiercely. Nothing. Don't do this. Please. The wolf's attention shifts to her, nostrils flaring as he inhales her scent. The snarling softens into a low rumble that she feels against her chest where they touch. Behind them, the front door of the estate bangs open. Voices erupt, confused, horrified, panicked. What the hell? Oh my God. Selene. She doesn't turn, doesn't acknowledge them. Her world narrows to the wolf before her. His massive head now dipping toward her throat. His breath is hot against her skin, fangs grazing the tender spot where her pulse hammers frantically. It should terrify her. It doesn't. The contact sends a wave of heat rushing through her body, a rightness so profound it draws a soft moan from her lips. Get off of her. Her mother's voice shrieks, closer now. There's a dull crack as something connects with the wolf's flank. Her mother stands there, wildly wielding what looks like a patio umbrella pole like a baseball bat. The wolf jerks away from Selene with a roar of fury, rounding on this new threat. Time slows as Selene watches his muscles bunch, preparing to lunge at her mother. A blur of dark fur erupts from the tree line, slamming into Alaric's side. The two wolves tumble across the gravel in a snarling tangle of teeth and claws. The newcomer is smaller, sleeker, with familiar dark eyes that flash in Selene's direction for the briefest moment. Lyra. Oh my God, there's more of them. Seraphina screams from the porch. More shapes emerge from the forest, wolves of various colors and sizes, surrounding the fighting pair. One breaks away, racing toward them. Its form rippling and changing as it approaches. In the space between one heartbeat and the next, a wolf becomes a woman, naked but for an amulet around her neck. Run! Lyra shouts, her voice carrying over the cacophony of snarls and growls. Get her out of here. Now. Hands grab Selene's arms, her mother on one side, Serafina on the other, dragging her toward the waiting car where her father sits behind the wheel, engine already running. She fights against their grip, eyes locked on the white wolf as he battles not just Lyra but 2 other wolves now. No. Let me go, she cries. But they're stronger than she expected, their panic lending them strength. Get in the car, her mother orders, shoving her into the back seat. Serafina climbs in beside her, followed by Dorian, who practically dives inside, slamming the door behind him. The car lurches forward before they're fully settled, tires spitting gravel. Selene throws herself against the window, palms pressed to the glass as the scene recedes. Alaric, stands in a ring of wolves, outnumbered but defiant. His white fur stained with blood that could be his own or his opponent's. Drive, Thaddeus. Faster. Her mother commands from the passenger seat. What the hell is going on? Dorian screams, his face ashen, eyes wild with terror. That woman, she turned into a we all saw it. Dorian, get yourself together. Serafina snaps, though her own voice trembles. This is a crisis. Selene ignores them both, pounding on the window, her gaze fixed on the rapidly shrinking figures behind them. Take me back, she shouts, fear clawing up her throat. They're going to kill him. We have to go back. Her pleas fall on deaf ears as the car speeds down the winding road that leads away from the estate. Trees blur past the window, the forest a green smear against the blue of the sky. Through the rear window, a flash of white appears on the road behind them. Alaric. Selene breathes, hope and terror warring in her chest. The white wolf races after the car, his strides eating up the distance between them with supernatural speed. Behind him, more wolves give chase, 5, maybe 6 of them, gaining ground with each passing second. We're being followed, her father shouts, eyes darting to the rearview mirror. Step on it, Lyra. Her mother takes the wheel, allowing her father to reach beneath the seat and withdraw a handgun that Selene has never seen before. The sight of it jolts her from her daze. Stop the car, she screams, lunging for the front seat. Don't you dare hurt him. Serafina grabs her arms, pulling her back. What does it want? She demands. Why is it coming after you? It needs to claim me, Selene answers without thinking, her eyes never leaving the white form racing behind them. Mom, nope. Her mother interrupts, pressing harder on the accelerator. Nope, no way. There will be none of that. The car swerves around a sharp bend, tires squealing. Selene's shoulder slams into the door, but she barely feels the impact. Her entire being is focused on the wolf. On Alaric. On the need to get to him before it's too late. Mom, please, she begs. A strange heat building at the base of her skull, spreading down her spine. He needs me. It needs to be put down, Dorian shouts, hysteria edging his voice. Something snaps inside Selene at his words. A snarl, not human, not entirely, tears from her throat as she rounds on Dorian, teeth bared. The sound is primal, predatory, nothing she's ever made before. Serafina shrinks away from her, eyes wide with shock. Selene, your eyes. Selene doesn't wait to hear the rest. Some new instinct takes over, a certainty that transcends thought. In one fluid motion, she lunges across Serafina, grabbing the door handle and kicking it open with more strength than she knew she possessed. Selene, no. Her mother screams as the door flies open, the rushing world beyond a blur of green and grey. Time slows. Selene locks eyes with her mother in the rearview mirror, sees the horror there, the fear, the incomprehension. Then she throws herself from the moving vehicle. The impact is brutal. The world spins in a kaleidoscope of sky and earth as she rolls across the asphalt. Pain explodes through her body. But beneath it, driving through it, is a certainty that makes the agony irrelevant. She comes to a stop on the shoulder of the road, gasping for breath that won't come. Then a shadow falls across her. The white wolf stands over her, his massive head lowering to her face, whining softly. His tongue laps at the blood on her cheek, her forehead, her scraped palms. Golden eyes search hers, filled with an anguish that breaks her heart. "I'm fine," she whispers, though she isn't. Not really. Her body is a symphony of pain. But none of it matters. Nothing matters except the wolf. Except Alaric. She reaches up, tangling her fingers in the thick fur at his neck, pulling him closer. The pack is gaining ground. She can hear them coming, can feel their presence like a pressure in the air. Their eyes meet, gold to brown, and in that moment, Selene feels what Alaric feels: the desperation, the need, the certainty that this is right, that they belong together. His need becomes hers, burning through her blood, rewriting her very DNA. With strength born of desperation, she pulls him closer, guiding his muzzle to the curve of her neck where pulse beats frantically against thin skin. "Go on," she urges, tilting her head to expose her throat fully. Behind Alaric, the pack emerges from the forest, wolves racing toward them, too late to stop what's begun. Behind Selene, her family spills from the car, her mother's screams and her father's shouts a distant backdrop to the moment that stretches between them. She feels his teeth graze her neck, testing, hesitating. The touch sends electricity racing through her nerves, a pleasure so acute it borders on pain. "Please," she whispers, her voice breaking on the word. The wolf's jaw opens wider, fangs pressing against her flesh with more intent now. Selene's hands fist in his fur, holding him close, refusing to let him pull away. Sharp teeth pierce her skin, a bright, brilliant pain that flares white-hot through her entire body. Chapter 19. Alaric. Blood. His mouth is full of it, hot, metallic, sickeningly sweet. Human blood. The taste yanks Alaric back to consciousness like a bucket of ice water. His wolf mind recedes, human awareness rushing in. The world sharpens, clarifies. The shift comes violently, bones cracking, muscles tearing, fur melting into skin. One moment the wolf, the next Alaric, kneeling beside a woman with dark curls, blood seeping from puncture wounds on her neck. Beneath him is rough asphalt. In his nostrils, the scent of fear, sweat, blood. In his ears, screams, sobs, approaching wolves. And something else, something that slices through his consciousness like a blade. Pain. Not his own. Someone else's. Hers. The woman's. His feeling his mate's pain. It's agony. Horror crashes over him as recognition dawns. No. The word scrapes his throat raw. No. Selene. The curse shatters like glass, memories pouring in, Selene's wide brown eyes reflecting moonlight as she found him in the forest. Selene's tentative smile when he bandaged her ankle. Selene in his dreams, his thoughts, his blood. His mate. The woman he was destined for. The woman he has just condemned to death. Oh God, what have I done? His voice breaks as her body convulses against him. Blood bubbles from her lips as she struggles for breath. He knows what's happening, has seen it before, with Selene Virel. The claiming bite triggers transformation in humans, but their bodies can't withstand the change. Bones break. Organs rupture. Minds shatter from the pain. They die. They always die. And he has just inflicted this fate on Selene. On his mate. On the woman I'm sorry, he chokes, pressing his forehead to hers as she gasps in agony. I'm so sorry. Her eyes flutter open briefly, glazed with pain. There's no recognition there, just blind pain. He's killed her. The realization is a knife to his gut. He's killed the other half of his soul. Alaric. Lyra's voice breaks through his anguish. She stands a few feet away, shifted back to human form, another pack member's jacket draped around her shoulders. You need to let her go. Behind her, the rest of the pack circles warily, some still in wolf form, others hastily dressed after shifting. And beyond them, Selene's family stumbles from their car, faces contorted with horror and grief. She needs to go to the hospital. Selene's mother screams, lunging forward only to be held back by her husband. Give her back to us. What have you done to her? Her sister sobs, clinging to her father. Lyra steps between the families, hands raised. She won't make it to a hospital, she says, her voice firm but compassionate. The transformation has begun. It's too late. Transformation? Selene's father repeats, his voice hollow. Into what? One of us, Lyra answers. She won't survive it. Alaric barely hears them. He's focused entirely on Selene. Through their newly formed bond, he feels her pain as his own, a fire consuming her from the inside out. We should end it quickly, one of the older pack members says softly. Before it gets worse. It would be mercy. A mercy ending. Alaric shakes his head. He won't allow it. He can't. No, he declares, power resonating in that single syllable, the unmistakable authority of an alpha. Everyone stills, pack and humans alike. She is mine, Alaric says, rising to his feet with Selene cradled against his chest. I will see her through this. Alaric, Lyra begins, her voice gentler now. No human has ever survived, Selene will. The certainty in his voice brooks no argument. Selene's father steps forward, shrugging off his long coat. Here, he says, offering it to Alaric with shaking hands. Take it. Please. Just help her if you can. Alaric nods once, allowing the man to drape the coat around his shoulders. Human modesty is the least of his concerns, but the gesture means something, he knows. I'm taking her to the estate, he tells Lyra. Keep them here. Explain what you can. Without waiting for a response, he turns and begins running, Selene's limp form secure in his arms. Each step sends fresh waves of agony through their bond, but he doesn't slow. The estate looms ahead, grand and imposing against the afternoon sky. Alaric bursts through the front door, startling the staff who scatter at the sight of their alpha carrying a bleeding woman. The East Wing. He barks at the housekeeper. Prepare the room. Now. The woman nods once and hurries ahead, knowing better than to question him in this state. Alaric follows, Selene's breathing growing more labored with each passing moment. The bedroom is large, with heavy curtains that can block out the light and thick walls to muffle sound. Alaric lays Selene gently on the bed. Her body immediately arches in a spasm of pain that draws a broken cry from her lips. Get out, he says to the hovering staff. All of you. They obey instantly, the door closing behind them with a soft click. Alone with his mate, Alaric gathers her convulsing form into his arms. Selene, he whispers, pressing his forehead to hers. Selene, I'm here. I'm with you. Her eyes flutter open, glazed with pain and fever. Alaric. She calls out, not through her lips, but through the bond. Alaric hears the words in his mind. Yes, he says, heart clenching. I'm here. A ghost of a smile touches Selene's lips before another wave of pain contorts her features. Her back arches impossibly, a scream tearing from her throat. The door bangs open. Lyra rushes in. Leave us, Alaric says without looking up. Alaric, she's in pain. She won't make it. You need to, I said leave. He barks. The command reverberates through the room. Lyra backs toward the door, her expression full of sorrow. If she dies, she begins. If she dies, I don't want to live, Alaric interrupts. I want you to kill me. That is my final order as your alpha. Lyra's face crumples, but she nods once before slipping from the room. Selene convulses again, her spine bending at an angle that would break a normal human. Alaric holds her through it, his arms gentle but firm as he guides her through the pain. Breathe, Selene, he instructs, reaching for her through their bond. Don't fight it. Let it take you. Her eyes find his, wide with terror and agony. I know it hurts, he says, pressing his lips to her forehead. But fighting makes it worse. You need to surrender to it. Let your body change. Another spasm racks her frame, this one stronger than before. Alaric feels her pain as his own, his body empathically mirroring her suffering through their bond. He reaches deeper, finding the core of her consciousness where terror and resistance rage. Listen for your wolf, he murmurs against her ear. It's there, Selene. Find it. In his mind, he visualizes their connection, a golden thread binding them together, pulsing with life and love and possibility. And then, emerging, a presence stirring deep within Selene. Ancient and wild. Her wolf. It's there, responding to his call. That's it, he encourages. Let it take over. Selene, for a moment, hope flares as Selene's breathing steadies slightly, her eyes clearing. But then a horrible cracking sound fills the room, bone breaking beneath the stress of transformation. Selene screams, the sound inhuman in its agony. Another crack follows, and another. Her body begins to contort. No, Alaric moans, gathering her closer. Through their bond, he feels her consciousness dim, slipping away as the pain overwhelms her system. Please, he begs, tears streaming down his face. I love you. Don't leave me. He buries his face against her neck, breathing in her scent, once so vibrant and alive, now tinged with the copper of blood and the acrid smell of approaching death. He presses his lips to the claiming bite, tasting salt and iron and despair. And then, instead of skin, there is fur. Soft, silver-grey fur. The broken bones realign, and muscles reform. Alaric pulls back to discover a sleek grey wolf with familiar brown eyes. You did it, he whispers, a sob of relief breaking from his chest. He wraps his arms around the wolf's neck, burying his face in her fur. The wolf nuzzles against him, her movements still unsteady. Then she turns her head, teeth sinking at the junction of Alaric's neck and shoulder. He gasps, vision blacking out momentarily as the claiming bite takes hold. When he blinks his eyes open, the wolf is gone. In her place lies Selene, human again, naked and trembling but alive. Her eyes meet his, a mixture of hope and uncertainty in their depths. I'm Selene, she says quickly, as if afraid he might not recognize her. Alaric lets out a startled laugh. He cups her face between his palms. I know, he whispers, choked. I remember. Their first kiss tastes of salt and blood and triumph, of endings and beginnings and everything in between. And as he holds her, his mate, his miracle, Alaric knows with absolute certainty that the curse that has haunted his family for generations ends here, broken by a love strong enough to defy fate itself. Epilogue. Selene. 4 years later. Push. The midwife urges, her weathered face intent. One more, Luna. Selene bears down, a cry tearing from her throat. Alaric's hand crushes hers, his presence an anchor through their bond. You're doing so well, he whispers, lips pressed to her temple. Through the red haze of pain, Selene's mind flashes to how they got here, to the day they discovered that she'd been born a shifter, her wolf nature masked by the curse that had plagued the Ashbourne family for generations. Her birth parents had abandoned her, believing she had no wolf, a terrible shame among their kind. Does it bother you? Alaric had asked. Learning that your birth parents abandoned you? No, she'd replied. The Blackwoods are my family. They raised me, loved me even when they didn't understand me. The revelation had explained so much. Why she'd healed quickly, why strong scents disturbed her, why being confined indoors made her restless. She knew who she was now. Another contraction seizes her. She draws strength from Alaric, channeling her wolf's endurance as she pushes one final time. A cry pierces the air, tiny, indignant, perfect. A boy, the midwife announces, placing the squalling infant on Selene's chest. Selene stares at her son, tears blurring her vision. Tiny fists wave in the air, little lungs working powerfully. I want you to know you're wanted, she whispers. Always. Alaric makes a choked sound beside her, wonder and disbelief mingling in his expression. He's come a long way too. She remembers his nightmares, how often he'd wake gasping, haunted by memories he'd tried keeping hidden for too long. How he'd pull away during intimate moments, convinced his wolf would hurt her. I killed my own father, he'd confessed one night. I can still feel his blood on my hands. I never want to be that monster. It had taken months of patience, of unwavering love, to help him believe the curse was truly broken, that he could love Selene without fear. Later, when they're alone with their son, Alaric touches the baby's cheek with reverent gentleness. He's free, he says softly. The first Ashbourne in generations born without the curse. How can you be sure? Selene asks. Alaric smiles. I can feel it. The curse died when you completed our bond. You broke the chain, Selene. That evening, Alaric presents their son to the pack. The Blackwoods stand at the front, Selene's father beaming proudly, her mother dabbing at tears, and Serafina, who had wisely dumped Dorian months ago after realizing she deserved someone who truly wanted her, trying to take photos. A hush falls as Alaric raises the child for all to see. Our son, he announces. The next alpha of Cedar Ridge, born without the curse that has plagued our bloodline for generations. One by one, each wolf tilts their head back in submission, honoring not Alaric but Selene, the Luna who broke the curse. Her mother gasps softly at the sight, finally understanding her daughter's true place in this world. You gave him life, Alaric says later, kneeling beside their bed. But more than that, you gave him a future. You gave our entire pack a future. Selene looks down at their child and feels complete. From abandoned baby to Luna. From outsider to savior. Her journey has come full circle. What shall we name him? She asks. Something new, Alaric says. Something that looks forward, not back. Lucian, Selene suggests. It means strong and enduring. Lucian, Alaric agrees. Hope, unshaded by fear for the first time. Our strong one. Our future. Moonlight spills through the window, and Selene feels a profound sense of rightness settle in her soul. This is what she was born for, not to be cursed, but to break curses. Not to be forgotten, but cherished. And not to be abandoned, but to create a family of her own, one that bridges the world of humans and wolves. Thank you for listening. If this story touched your heart, give it a like and subscribe for more beautiful tales. Tap the next thumbnail to continue your journey.